Welcome to part 5 of a 6-part series. This is Will Brooks and my mission is to make coding fun and easy to learn. In today's video, we will style the Figcaption element so it looks good on PCs as well as mobile devices. We will also style the unordered list using margin to center the text and text align left to move the text to the left, while adjusting line height and adding a max width. So let's get started. So first we need to go back to index.html and add a class to our Figcaption, which is right here, Figcaption. So let's add a class. Let's go inside here and space class equals parentheses. We're going to call this just fig-cap. Fig-cap. Perfect. So now let's go back to our style.css and do .fig-cap. And then space, and then curly brackets. Okay, now comes the tricky part. So the first thing I want to do is create a border. This is really important on this one. Okay, and let's get just Control-C there, and let's put the border right there. Okay, good. I'm going to change that to blue. Just to make it easier to see contrast between the orange there. Okay, so the first thing we want to see is we're going to see that here, this is it right here. That's the figure caption right there, describing the picture. But if you notice, underneath this blue border between the blue and orange, there's a gap there, and that is the padding of the figure element. So remember, let's go to HTML. So we put all that in a figure element, and there is the figure right there, the figure class right there. So all of that goes in here. Inside there is the Figcaption, okay? So what this orange border is the box of the figure element. So we have to take into account the padding right there, the pixels of the figure element. So the best way to do that is, let's go to the inspect element. So go to the Chrome right here, right click and go to inspect on Chrome. And then let's open this up. And now, be careful. You have to go up here and you have to click on, can you see that? We have the arrow points to figure. We have to highlight the right section. So click there. And I want to go to Figcaption right there. Let's click on that and it highlights that. Now, scroll down to the bottom. Let's get our box. So on the box, okay, so if we look in here on the left side here, we're looking right here in the blue border. So let's first highlight the margin. There's no margin. I added the 5 pixels for the border. Don't worry about that. There's no padding, and there's the content. So what we want to do in order to center this is we want to add margin from the top and margin from the bottom. So we want to push this blue border down from the picture, and we also want it to come up a little bit here as well. But look at this. It shares the same space with the padding of the figure. So let's click on the figure class. Remember that figure? So here's the figure, which is the orange border around here. So I clicked right here on the figure, right there. So now it has no margin. I put the 5 pixels on the border, but look at the padding. The padding is 10 pixels and it's green. You see the padding going around it? Here, it's this right here. It's between the blue and the orange border. That's the important part. So you have to take into account that 10 pixels of padding. So whatever you add on the margin up here at the top margin, let's say you add 20 pixels here, you have to make sure you subtract the 10 pixels from the bottom. So if you add 20 pixels at the top margin for the figure caption, you only have to add 10 pixels for the bottom margin because it already has 10 pixels. Again, let's say you add 15 pixels from the top. All you have to do on the bottom for the margin on the figure caption is add 5 pixels because you have to subtract the 10 pixels from the 15 because it already has 10 pixels at the bottom here. I hope you're following along with this. This is very important. That's how we're going to center this. So once more, let's go to the Figcaption and see the Figcaption has 0 margin and we want to bring that margin down, but we have to take into account this right here. So let's go out of here and let's do that and I'll show you what I mean. So let's go back here. Let's hit return and let's add the margin. Not that. Let's add the margin. Okay, here we go. And so let's do this. Let's add 15 pixels from the top. So 15 pixels. And I'm going to do pixels first. I don't want to confuse you with the RAM. So let's let's go back up here. 15 pixels first. And then you can see it adds 15 pixels of margin all the way around. Now it looks bigger at the bottom here because there's also 10 pixels of padding down here as well. So let's do 0. So remember, 15 pixels now is going from the top to the bottom, and 0 pixels on the right and left of margin. But we're going to continue. So now remember, there are 10 pixels down here on the padding of here. So we subtract the 10 from the 15. So all we need to do is add 5 pixels for the bottom margin. So 5 pixels for the bottom margin. And now it's centered. And then to finish it off, 0 pixels for the right margin. So let's comment out the border here. And there you go. It's centered right there. So now, let's say we want to make it a little bit larger, that space there. So let's say we add 30. I'm not going to do this, but let's just say we add 30 pixels from the top margin down. So 30. Okay, so now you see this is 30 right here, 30 pixels. It's not centered here. What are we going to do? Well, remember, there are 10 pixels of padding down here from the figure. So all we have to do is subtract the 10 from the 30, and we add 20 pixels. 20 pixels of margin on the bottom, and that is going to center it. Let's see. There you go. It's centered. I mean, you can go on and on. All you have to do is remember to subtract 10 pixels from the top margin, because there's already 10 pixels of padding from the figure. So let's go back and put this to 15, which I want. And let's change this to 5 so it centers it. And there, now it's centered. Now, the last thing I want to do is, remember I'm using rem, so 15 pixels is 1.5 rem. So we're going to change this to 1.5 rem. And we're going to change this to 0.5 rem. 0.5 rem. And then we are going to have it centered again. It is centered. And I'm going to leave that border off. We don't need that border on there anymore. So I'm just going to delete this right here. And I hope if you have any questions about that, please leave a comment below saying I still don't get that, and I'll try to explain that in a different way. So the last thing we want to do with the image is to make it responsive. But what I just remembered is with the other ones, when we make it responsive, remember when we go back here and we make it smaller to 512 pixels or less, which is 32 rem, it turns green, the border, so you can see it. So what I want to do is I want to add that border back here so that when it changes, you'll be able to see the change easier. And like I said, we'll take those borders out later. So we had a blue border, so I'm just going to copy the blue border. And let's just copy that. And let's bring it down here. And we're going to add that to the Figcap. And let's actually add it to the top part there. And boom, let's go that, save that, clean it up. Okay, good. So now we have that blue border back. When it hits the breakpoint, it's going to turn green. So let's do the add media brackets, and then max width colon, and we're going to say max width, we're going to say 512 pixels, which I'll change to rem. And then let's go in curly brackets, and then what we're going to do is we need to put in the Figcap, because that's what's going to change. Curly brackets, return, and let's add the border first. We're going to add a green border. So when it hits that breakpoint of 512 pixels, it's going to change it to green. The border is going to change to green. And you'll know that that's when if things happen, when things change. So there we go. Okay, so it's going to change to green. Not yet. And then let's go back here. And now the only thing I want to do is change the font size. So when it hits that breakpoint, we're going to do a 1.4 rem. So it's going to go from, that's 14 pixels. It's going to go from 16 pixels to 14 pixels. Okay, so let's take a look at that. And let's go in here and grab this. Okay, now let's pull it close, smaller. When this right here, when this blue border turns green, that means the font size is going to get smaller. So let's take a look. Keep going. There, it changed right there. Ready? Let's do it again. And there. See how the font size changed to 14 pixels? Perfect. And then this is what it would look like on a smaller device like this. Looks good. Next, we're going to style the timeline header. And the timeline header is going to be right here. It's the H3 tag, and it's Michael Brecker's timeline. And we'll just give that a class of time-line. So inside the H3, let's put a space there. Let's say class equals parentheses time-line. Okay, good. Now that we have the class in there, let's go to our CSS. And let's do dot and then time dash line space curly bracket. Okay, you know what I want to do next. Okay, so let's go over here. So right here is Michael Brecker's timeline. That's what we're gonna do style next. And I want to put a border around it. And let's put a red border around this one. So let's find the red border. Let's go back up here. Where's our red border? Right there. Okay, let's just copy and paste this, or copy. Okay, let's copy this and let's put this down here so we see the box. I like to see the boxes. And let's paste it here. Good. So let's change that red. There it is. Okay. So we're looking at here. And you can see it's got, looks like it has margin top and bottom. I want to increase that margin. The only thing we're going to do here is I'm going to increase the top margin to 50 pixels, and I want to increase the bottom to 50. But let's go into our inspect. So go to your Chrome here, right click, and let's see. We're going to go to inspect. And then let's make this bigger. Let's see what it has right now. And so first thing we want to do is go up to the right side here and make sure we click on H3. And let's see, we got to go to section, and then let's blow that up. There we go, section right there. Click on that, and then H3 is right there. And now we can scroll down and see what it looks like down in our box. Okay, so right now, if we see, look on the left here, right here and here. Okay, so our margin is 18.72 pixels. And we put a border on there. There's no padding, and then our content's there. So we want to change this to 50 and 50. So we're going to move this down. It's going to come down quite a bit. The whole red rectangle box is going to come down 50 and 50. So let's go back and let's add that in there. So let's see, timeline, and let's go margin. And with the margin, we're going to do 5 rem because that equals 50 pixels, 5 rem, and then 0. So remember, 5 rem is top and bottom if there are only 2 values, and the 0 is right and left. And let's click off of here, and you can see it changed it right here. Look on the right side, you can see it already changed it to 50, 50 right there. Let's open this up, and it moved the margin down and up here. So if I highlight this, the margin got bigger on 50 pixels both sides. Perfect. Okay, let's X out of here, and then let's minimize this. And that's all I want to do there. Let's just open this and see what it looks like here. See how that got bigger, like that, like that. And so I can actually, what I want to do next is I want to go to our unordered list, and I want to style that. So we want to go to our list here, and we're going to style this whole thing here, make it look better. We're almost finished. Okay, I'm not going to set a class for the UL. I'm just going to call it UL, and then I'm going to curly brackets return. The first thing I want to do, of course, I want that border. The border is just so easy. It's just easy for you to see what we're doing when I have a border. And I'm going to paste it right here. Let's just call this border. Let's make it purple. Okay, so it changes a little bit from everything else. Purple border. Let's open it up and take a look. Come on. Perfect. Look at that. We got a purple border around the unordered list right there. You see that? So the first thing I want to do, the next thing I want to do rather is I want to cut this in half, the timeline. I don't want it so large. I want to take up half the screen, so I'm going to do a max width. Now it can go smaller, but it's not going to go larger than the max width that I declare. So let's do a max width on there. So max width, and we're going to say 55 rem, which is 550 pixels. And let's go take a look. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. So it's never going to get any larger than this, no matter how big your monitor is. Now it will get smaller, but I want to center it. I want to center this. So next thing we want to do is I want to center it. And I also, let's take a look. See how there are 50 pixels here from here to here. And then down here, oh no, there's not 50. So I want to vertically center it. So how do I do that? Well, the 50 pixels from here is coming from Michael Brecker's timeline from the H3. Remember, we added 50 pixels here. But down here, we don't have any. So I need to add 50 pixels at the bottom. I don't need to add any at the top. And in order to center it horizontally, I need to add auto on the left and auto on the right on margin. So let's go do that. Enough talk. Let's do it. So margin, we're going to go 0 pixels on the top, auto on the right, 50 pixels, which is 5 rem on the bottom, and then auto on the left. And let's see how that looks. Perfect. Okay, great. See how it's centered now? It's centered from the top. It's 50 pixels here, and then we have 50 pixels here. Now, if you forgot, how many pixels there are, you can always look on your CSS, or you can look on the inspect on Google Chrome. And then the auto on the margin auto centers it horizontally like that. So next, let's go out of here. And the next thing I want to do is I want to do text aligned left, because the text is all over the place and it looks sloppy. We want the text to go to the left. So text align, and we're going to say left. And let's take a look. It's going to look really pretty now. Look at that. The text is all aligned to the left. It's still centered. It's starting to look really good. Now, let's go out of here. Last thing I want to do is the line height. Now, remember the line height. Line height, if I highlight this right here, the line height is the space between one line and the next. Right now, it is at 1.5. I just want to increase it a little bit to 1.6. So we're going to increase the line height. And that's the last thing we're going to do here is the line height. Okay, and we're going to do 1.6. Remember, we're not going to give a value to it. And take a look. Oh, you can see it right there. Perfect. So the line height's increased. It looks good. Thank you for watching part 5 of the coding project. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. And if this has been helpful so far, please remember to subscribe and hit the like button. We will continue styling the HTML code in part 6. So see you there.